Nobody or nothing will affect you again. Do this and see. Have you ever noticed how some people go through life as if they were cast in a never-ending soap opera? Who cuts them off in traffic? Personal attack? A friend takes too long to respond? Betrayal? Is the barista incorrectly preparing their order? However, there are rare, almost mystical beings who appear to be unconcerned about anything. They glide through life like a breeze, unaffected by the nonsense that the rest of us get caught up in. Someone insulted them. They shrug. Unexpected setbacks? They adjust. It's almost as if they exist at a completely different frequency than the rest of the world. Now for the real question. What do they know that we don't? Because, let's be honest, most people live like human pinballs, bouncing from one reaction to the next, completely dependent on everything around them. If the weather is bad, they are unhappy. If someone does not text back, their self-esteem plummets. If a stranger gives them an odd look, they will spend the next 3 hours analyzing it like a detective investigating a crime. And let's be honest, we've all been there at some point. Maybe not full-time, but enough to understand what it's like to let something completely irrelevant take up far too much space in our minds. So, what distinguishes the reactive from the untouchable? It's not luck. It's not some innate ability. It's not because they've perfected their emotions like some Zen monk on a mountaintop. No, it's a simple thing. They've stopped participating in a game that was rigged from the beginning. Most people go through life with a fundamental misunderstanding of where their feelings come from. They believe that the outside world is controlling their emotions, when in fact, it is their own interpretation of the world that is causing all of the damage. Let's break it down as simply as possible. If someone flips you off in traffic, you have two options. Option A is to take it personally, let it ruin your day, and rant for hours. Option B is to shrug, assume they have bigger problems, and keep things moving. It was the same event. Two entirely different experiences. And the only difference? The meaning you assigned it. And this is where things get wild. This applies to everything in life. That one harsh comment from a stranger has no effect on you unless you give it weight. That rejection only hurts if you allow it to define you. That bad day will only ruin your week if you watch it on repeat like a bad Netflix show. The truth is that the majority of what bothers people occurs in their minds rather than on their bodies. They are stuck in a cycle of reacting rather than deciding what is worthy of their energy. And once you truly understand this, not just in theory, but in real time, everything changes. Because the world no longer happens to you, but rather becomes something you can experience on your own terms. The real question is, how do you flip this switch? Because once you do, life will never feel the same again. Let's get to it. Okay, so now you know the secret. It's not what happens to you, but how you interpret it. But let's be honest, knowing this in theory and actually experiencing it are two very different things. Because, let's be honest, when life throws something personal at you, when someone disrespects you, or when a situation simply feels unfair, it's very easy to forget everything and return to reacting. So, how do you train your mind to become immune to these minor annoyances? How do you get to the point where nothing and no one can affect you anymore? It all starts with a simple, yet powerful shift. Stop giving your energy away for nothing. Most people give away their peace of mind as if it were a promotional gift. Some random person online makes a negative comment. Let us spend 2 hours mentally arguing with them. Someone gives them a strange look in public. It's time to overanalyze and rethink every interaction. A minor inconvenience occurs. So that's it. The day is ruined. It's like owning a business and giving away all of your inventory for free. At some point, you must start charging. You must start asking yourself, does this person's opinion pay my bills? Will I remember this situation a week from now? Is this really my problem? Or am I simply taking on someone else's negative energy? Because 90% of the time, what stresses people out is nothing more than other people's expectations. Someone is rude to you. That is their problem. Someone doubts you. That reflects their limited mindset. Someone disrespects you. That reveals more about them than about you. Think about it. When you react, become upset, or allow something to control your emotions, you are essentially saying, "Here, take my peace. I do not need it." But the truth is that your peace of mind is your most valuable asset. And the people who truly win in life, those who move through the world unshaken, have realized that most things aren't worth their time. Now, here's where things get interesting. When you stop reacting, stop engaging with negativity, and become unshakable, strange things begin to happen. People who used to hold power over you suddenly lose it. The things that used to ruin your day are barely noticeable. The world feels lighter now that you are no longer carrying things that were never yours in the first place. And once you've experienced that level of mental freedom, there's no turning back. But there is one more piece to the puzzle. Because there is a way to push this even further. To not only be unaffected by the world, but to manipulate it in your favor. And this is where things get really exciting. Let us break it down. Here is the truth. Most people do not want control over their emotions. They say they do. They say they seek inner peace. However, when life throws something annoying at them, they always take the bait. Boss sends an annoying email. Time to write a mental resignation letter. Phone dies at 1%. Clearly, the universe is conspiring against them. It's as if people enjoy being controlled by their emotions. They will say, "I can't help it. That's just how I am." But here's the real kicker. When you stop reacting, you win. Not just in your personal life, but in every aspect. Let's break it down. There's a reason why the most powerful people in any situation, be it a high-stakes negotiation, a social interaction, or even an argument, always remain calm. When you lose control of your emotions, you give up leverage. If someone knows how to trigger you, they own you. If a situation manages to get under your skin, it has control over you. If your emotions are constantly reacting to the world will determine your reality. Now imagine the inverse. Consider becoming someone who simply does not take the bait anymore. A passive-aggressive comment. You do not even flinch. Is someone trying to put you to the test? They get no reaction. Is life presenting you with unexpected challenges? You adapt and move forward. This is not about ignoring problems. It's about refusing to let problems define you. When you master this, people will treat you differently. They put you through fewer tests. They respect your personal space. And the best part? You begin to make decisions based on logic and intention rather than emotional reactions. Because most people don't realize this. When you react emotionally, you are essentially on autopilot. And the world admires people who are easily manipulated. Marketing teams, they prey on your impulses. Toxic people, they thrive by getting under your skin. Systems of control, they rely on people who cannot detach. You see, your reactions are predictable. Predictable people are easy to control. However, when you stop being easily moved by things and become an observer, rather than a reactor, you gain something that 99% of people will never have. True freedom. And it is in that space, where nothing outside of you influences your internal state, that you begin to truly live on your own terms. Now, you may be wondering, this sounds great, but how do I actually implement it? That is where things become even more interesting. Because making this shift permanent requires more than just knowing it. It's about completely rewiring your response system. Let's get into it. Okay, so we've established that reacting emotionally gives you control. But here's the real challenge. How do you actually train yourself to not react? Because, let's be honest, if detachment was simple, everyone would do it. The truth is that most people are unconsciously conditioned to react. We've been wired since childhood to respond quickly to external stimuli. Someone insulted you. You need to defend yourself. Is there a situation that frustrates you? You need to vent. It's like living life with an open control panel, where anyone, including your boss, a stranger, or a social media post, can walk up and press your buttons at any time. But what if you could turn off the control panel entirely? Here's where emotional immunity comes in. And no, I am not referring to ignoring emotions or becoming a robot. I'm talking about helping your brain break the cycle of automatic reactions. Step 1. Do not absorb. Instead, observe. Most people soak up every situation like a sponge. When someone is stressed around them, they become stressed. If someone is rude to them, they will feel personally attacked. Instead, you should become the observer. Let's say you're in a coffee shop and the barista is having a bad day. She snaps at you without reason. The average person readily absorbs this energy. Why is she so rude to me? I did not do anything wrong. Their mood has now been affected. However, an observer sees what is going on, but does not absorb it. She must be going through something. The event still occurred. But what's the difference? It did not enter your system. This is detachment in action. You allow the world to move around you, but not through you. Step 2. Master the pause. Have you ever noticed how regrettable decisions are made in the heat of the moment? That is because emotional reactions override logic. They take over your brain. What's the fix? Wait a moment before reacting. Is someone saying something offensive? Pause. Does anxiety set in? Pause. Do you feel the urge to argue? Pause. That brief moment of stillness gives your brain a choice. React either automatically or intentionally. What about that choice? That's where all of your power is. Here's a professional trick. Before responding to anything, ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Because 99% of the time, it is not. Step 3. Starve the drama. Drama thrives on reactions, whether in relationships, the workplace, or social settings. It's an ecosystem that thrives on emotional reactions. Gossip only spreads when people interact. Toxic people only stay until they get a reaction. Arguments only escalate when both parties participate. When you stop feeding the system, it will collapse. Imagine someone tries to start a fight with you, and instead of reacting, you simply smile and move on. They're completely powerless. Because this is the truth. People who try to provoke you do not seek truth or understanding. They are looking for control. When you give them nothing, they lose their control. That's why the most dangerous person in any interaction is the one who refuses to take the bait. And once you start doing this, you'll notice something unusual. People will begin to respect you more. They will not test you as frequently. Even those who do will quickly realize that you're not someone to mess with. Because once you have mastered emotional immunity, you are untouchable. Now, you may be thinking, okay, this makes sense in theory. But how do I apply this when emotions are overwhelming? And this is where the final step comes in. Reprogramming the way you process emotions before they occur. At this point, you may be thinking, okay, but what about situations where emotions are too strong? Where does detaching seem impossible? That is a valid concern. And this is precisely where most people get stuck. Because, let's be honest, if you've spent your entire life reacting to events, changing overnight is unrealistic. But here's the key. It is not about suppressing emotions. It is about reprogramming how you process them. Step 1. Train your mind like a muscle. People handle their emotions like wild animals. Uncontrollable, unpredictable, and something they must deal with. However, emotions, like muscles, can be trained. Have you ever noticed how some people remain calm under extreme pressure, while others break down over minor inconveniences? It is not because they were born with special abilities. It is because they have conditioned their nervous system to react differently. Your brain has default pathways, which it follows based on previous experiences. If your brain has long associated stress with panic, it will continue to do so. If your brain has associated criticism with defensiveness, the reaction will occur automatically. What's the trick? Interrupt the pattern. Every time you're about to react emotionally, pause and consider, what if I respond in the opposite way this time? Rather than becoming irritated, try smiling. Instead of rushing to defend yourself, maintain silence. Rather than panicking, take a deep breath and observe. Initially, your brain will fight you. It will scream, "No, we have to react. This is how we have always done it." But if you keep resisting that urge, your brain will eventually rewire itself. And one day, you'll notice something unusual. Situations that previously triggered you no longer do. The old response is simply no longer available. That's when you know you've won. Step 2. Control your internal narrative. Most people are unaware that their inner dialogue determines their feelings about everything. So, the next time something feels like it's affecting you, ask yourself, what story am I telling myself about it? Is this interpretation really useful? Because 90% of the time it isn't. Step 3. People can be emotionally disarmed. Here's a trick that will transform your life. When people expect a reaction from you, and you don't give them one, they become completely confused. Have you ever seen a situation in which someone insults another person, and instead of becoming angry, they laugh and agree? You're extremely stubborn. Yeah, it's one of my best qualities. You never take things seriously. I try not to. You don't really care, do you? Nope. That's known as emotional Aikido. Taking someone's negative energy and turning it on them. When you refuse to be affected, you are sending a clear message. You do not have control over me. Nothing frustrates people more than finding out that their attempts to trigger you are ineffective. And guess what? The less reactive you are, the more respect you will gain. People test you to see how much control they can exert over you. When they realize you're untouchable, they back down. At the end of the day, being unshakable does not mean never experiencing emotions. It's about not allowing them to control you. It's about making a decision. Do I allow this situation to define me, or do I shape the situation? Because when you stop reacting to things that don't deserve your attention, you can start living on your own terms. And that's when everything changes. So, if this resonated with you, click the like button. Because, let's be honest, if you've read this far, you've learned something. If you want to see more content like this, subscribe. Why this? This is only the beginning. See you at the next one.